Welcome. I'm Christine Weber. Thank you for being here for my weekly live stream. I love to support mature yoga teachers and getting their wisdom out there into the world. So, today I want to talk a little bit about using some special sounds in asana practice. And why would we want to do that? So, there's a couple reasons that largely has to do with regulating the nervous system. There are afferents that run, which are nerves that go up to the brain from the body. So there are afferent nerves that run from the voice box, from the throat into up into the brain that send messages that and when we stimulate them using the voice in particular ways, those messages are calming messages to the nervous system. So when you're using calming practices to regulate the nervous system in terms of asana, pranayama, meditation, sometimes the sounds can also be helpful towards that end. The science of sound, it's called nada yoga. The science of sound is actually it's a very sophisticated and complex and vast field of study. It's been around for a long time, so there's a lot to it. But today, what I want to show you are just a few things you can do in asana practice that can be helpful for regulating the nervous system. Why would we want to do that? Well, this time of year is a really good time to regulate your nervous system, as we all know. And with things going, with the way that things are, in terms of the wars that are going on, the environmental destruction, on and on, politics, on and on, disparity. Many people are dysregulated. Yesterday, I read a statistic: 80% of Gen Zs are reporting some mental health issues. 80%. That's just like it's mind blowing when you think about it. I said to my husband last night after I read that statistic, I said to my husband last night, we really should be teaching yoga for Gen Zs and self regulation, because it's heartbreaking to think about young people struggling so much right now. And yet the world is struggling, and so we are called to self regulate, take care of the self, so that we can show up in the best way possible for others. So here's another, so here are some tips you can use, or some techniques, I should say, you can use in asana practice. And I'm going to show you three. The first one is we know it. We do it all the time. It's called ujjayi, right? So the first one is using that engagement in the throat, as if you're fogging a mirror. I just did it through my mouth so you could hear it better, but you really or doing it through the nose. You can use it on the inhale too, but it's particularly useful on the exhale, because as we exhale, the stretch receptors in the lungs send messages to the medulla, which then sends messages to the atrial node in your heart that says, calm down, to slow down the beat. So the exhale is naturally, it puts the foot on what's called the vagal brake. It has to do with stretch receptors, has to do with the vagus nerve. Breathing is very complex, but it's taking the nervous system in that parasympathetic direction. So the exhale is actually really important. And when you have that extra sound, then you're stimulating those afferents in the vagus nerve at the throat level as well, and sort of catalyzing that process, if you like, of that down regulation process, right? So how would you use that? Well, we use it all the time in yoga, but really specifically, like just saying you're doing a mountain pose, inhale the arms up, exhale with a, right? So it's release, it's just like letting go, releasing some of that tension, from the mind, but also it's very physiologic to use ujjayi. So, and by the way, I don't like aggressive ujjayi in general. I tend to keep it light. It should be internal. So I've been making it kind of loud so you could hear it in my microphone there. Okay, now here's the second one, number two. What's another sound we could use? Another sound we can use is brahmari. So it's a mm, can use this in asana as well. So again, like with mountain pose, inhale, arms up, exhale with a do that a couple of times. You can do it in other poses too. That's just one option. Like you could do it in a forward bend. Brahmari is interesting. Similarly, has that effect on stimulating the vagus nerve. No, also when you change the pitch, so when the pitch gets a little bit lower instead of that changing the pitch also has that down regulating effect on the sympathetic part of the nervous system and stimulates or upregulates the parasympathetic. Okay, third technique we're going to use today is a sound that we all know and love and use with babies all over the world. It's a shh sound. Now, in the Taoist yoga practices that I studied in the 90s, a long time ago, that sound is used to regulate the liver. It's specifically for pacifying the heat, agitation, anger, all of that comes from the liver, and it's so interesting. That's like a more of a traditional Chinese concept, but when you think back to the Greeks and the way they understood the humors, there was this idea of bile, right? And bile being sort of like that which turns us angry, that which makes us angry, right? So the bile, you've got bile is up. We even use that. I don't know if we use it so much, but you have heard it in the English language, this idea of bile being bitterness and anger. So the sound pacify is considered to pacify that. So how would you do it? Same thing. You could try it in a mountain. Inhale, arms up. Exhale with a and certainly you could use that and many other asanas. Forward bends are good, so things like pyramid pose, Parshvottanasana, or standing Uttanasana, forward bend, or wide-legged forward bend. You could do it in Apanasana when you're lying on the floor. You could do it in Chakravakasana from tabletop to child's pose. There's many different ways you can weave this sort of breathing sounds into an asana practice. The other thing I would say is don't do it for the entire practice. So you want to just have here and there kind of sprinkle it in, and you'll find that to be more effective than using it 100% of the time, which it's basically just overkill. It's like too much for the system. So I would love to hear your thoughts about these practices. Please let me know in the comments. I have a few things coming up that I want to share with you. We've just released a course. It's called Visioning for a Bright New Year. And so my husband and I decided we wanted to refurbish the course that we have put out for the past couple of years. And so we have upgraded the journal. Now it's a 40-page journal that goes with it. And there are 4 videos that go along with this journal. So we guide you through the visioning process. It's super affordable. It's basically just our gift, $7. I don't have the link right now, but please look on my Facebook page, Subtle Yoga with Christine Weber, and the link is right there. You can get it there in the comments. Or you can always email us, support@subtleyoga.com. So we'd love to share that practice with you. And I'll tell you a little bit of my story, which is that when I was a child, I was 9 or 10 years old, and there was a lot of my house was loud. I had a lot of siblings. It was a loud a lot of contention, to be frank. So there was always a lot of screaming going on in my house, and I realized that I was young. I was 9 or 10, and I was like, I am going to I'm going to find somebody to marry and have a household where we are committed to having a quiet, peaceful life. And, we're not always quiet, but you know what I mean? I knew that that was something I wanted to change about the way that I was brought up. And I, um, I visioned it. I had a vision for this happening, and I took many steps along the way, and I made a ton of mistakes. and I was with partners that were not quiet, that were not committed to peace. But when I met my future husband, when I met Brett, I was like, oh, this is the kind of person who could help me make that vision happen for myself. So that's just an example. And I realized as I was working on this visioning book, I remembered that story. And then I realized there's so many other times in my life that I have created visions for what I want my life to be, what I want to do with myself, how I want to actualize my purpose. And it's not like it's always worked. It's not like I just like waved a magic wand and everything happened. Like it's always been this process of learning and growing. Every time you make a mistake, it's like the friction, that polishes your diamonds. Like obstacles are always the way, and overcoming obstacles are always the way that we improve. It's always the way that we get better. We refine our vision. We refine our actions towards that vision. So there's nothing like how sometimes you hear I'm pushing my temples because I've heard it so often. I live in Asheville, North Carolina, and it was really common to hear this new agey ideas around like, oh, if you just imagine it's going to come true, then it will. And I've always kind of that's always kind of made me cringe, because that's not the way that the world works. And then people start to feel bad, like they can't do it, I can't manifest. Well, that's because we have to dig down deep into who we are, uncover some of that stuff, deal with our traumas, really hone our skills. Like life isn't about just waving a magic wand, but there's a process that we go through it. So as Brett and I started to revamp the journal that we had written previously, and we went through that, we realized we're pulling out these processes that we've used our whole life, in our lives, and put them into a formula that I think is really powerful. In fact, I was so happy with the book that I printed it out, and I've been working on the exercises in my own book. I've been working on them because, like, you're always a work in progress. There's always more that we can do. So, and also some of my students have been saying like they don't want to do they're not journalers. If you're not a journaler, then feel free to download the book and work with a partner, a study buddy, or a small group where you can discuss all the questions together and work through all the questions together. I think that's another great way to use resources like this. I've also made little videos that go with the book, so you're welcome to watch the videos to help you go through the process too. So that's one thing that we have going on. Also, just so you know, a little sneak preview, the Subtle Yoga Resilience Society will be opening in January. From January 6th to 10th, the doors will be open. You might want to put that on your calendar if you're interested in studying with me in the new year. It's a great time to make the commitment, right? January is a great time to make the commitment to yourself, to go deeper into your yoga practice. We would love to have you join us in the Resilience Society if you're not already a member. And then March 22nd to March 24th, I will be having a retreat here in Asheville. It's called Subtle Yoga Golden Ratios Pranayama and Asana and Pranayama Retreat. So I'm really excited about sharing that information with you. It will teach you how to find your own unique golden ratio. And I'm going to be talking about the science of ratios as well, the neuroscience. So check that out. Well, that's actually not on our website, but mark your calendar. That'll be on our website soon. The other thing that's not on our website, but will be soon, is I think it's April 13th and 27th. I'm not exactly sure, but sometime in April, we're having our next live online workshop, and that is chair yoga for chronic health challenges. So I'm really excited about that workshop too. Chair yoga is so close to my heart. I can't wait to share that with you too. So those are some of the things going on in my world. I'd love to hear from you. Please leave a comment. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you next week. Take care.